At 2:07 a.m., she ordered
You don't have
soup
to
and
do
got
this
a
all by
black single
yourself.
dad with a wrecked
I
car and
know,
a
but
7-year-old.
sometimes it feels like
He
I
keeps
do.
saying, we're going to be okay. So why is her own heart suddenly the only thing she's afraid of losing? Before we dive in, make sure to hit subscribe, tap like and share this video. The more voices we reach, the louder these stories become. And drop your city in the comments. Let's see where love finds us. The city looked different after midnight, like someone had turned the contrast down and forgotten to put it back. Micah Jordan pulled his dented grey sedan to the curb and checked the address again, squinting at the screen lit too bright in the dark. Harrington Tower, penthouse. He blew out a breath, running his tongue along molars that still tasted faintly of the cheap coffee from the gas station. Harrington Tower. He'd seen it on the news last month when they did a segment on the youngest female fintech billionaire on the East Coast. Now he was parked outside like any other delivery driver at 2 or 3 a.m., trying not to think about rent. In the visor above him, a crumpled piece of paper was clipped with a laundry pin. A sun that took up the whole page, drawn in thick yellow crayon. Lena, age 7, written in careful block letters at the bottom. Micah reached up and straightened it without thinking. One more run, he murmured to the empty car. Then we sleep. He grabbed the insulated bag from the passenger seat, stepped out into the chill air, and locked the car with a beep that sounded too hopeful for what the sedan actually was. The building's entrance loomed ahead, all glass and brushed metal, reflecting back his tall frame, dark skin, and the tired set of his shoulders. Inside, the lobby smelled like lemon polish and money. Smooth marble floors, a sculpture that looked like twisted steel and probably cost more than his yearly income, and a bored night concierge in a perfect suit scrolling his phone. Delivery for Harrington, penthouse, Micah said, holding up his phone with the order confirmation. The concierge's eyes skimmed him, then the screen, then back. Not hostile, just detached. The way people looked at furniture that moved and talked. Use the private elevator. He pointed without standing. Penthouse button will light up for you. Micah pressed his lips together and nodded, heading toward the mirrored doors. Inside the elevator, he caught his reflection. Broad shoulders filling the hoodie, black curls flattened by a cap, deep brown eyes that still held something gentle he hadn't managed to kill off yet. A single dad couldn't afford to be completely hard. Lena needed softness from somewhere. As the elevator hummed upward, his phone buzzed in his pocket with a new notification. For a second, panic flared. What if it was the sitter? It wasn't. It was an old voicemail reminder he hadn't had the heart to delete. Lena, at 4 years old, lisping her way through, "Daddy, you forgot your lunch." He'd saved it the week her mother left and never turned it off. He cancelled it with a swipe and slid the phone back into his pocket, chest tight. The elevator stopped with a soft ding. The doors opened straight into a small foyer, and a single black door with a sleek numeric keypad. No hallway, no neighbours. Rich people didn't have to pretend to share. Before he could knock, the door swung open. She filled the doorway like a question he wasn't ready for. Cassidy Harrington was taller than he'd expected, maybe 5'8", thick and curvy in a way that made every line of her body look deliberate, even in the soft chaos of what she was wearing. Her long, dark blonde hair was piled into a messy bun, strands falling around a heart-shaped face. Blue eyes, clear and sharp even though they were rimmed red, flicked over him, then to the bag in his hand. She wore an oversized white button-down shirt, half-tucked and gaping slightly at the chest, hinting at black lace beneath. The hem skimmed the top of black silk shorts that hugged her hips, emphasizing the fullness of her thighs. Bare legs, soft and strong, ended in ridiculous fuzzy grey socks. This was the woman the news called the Ice Queen. Right now she looked more like a storm that hadn't decided whether to break. "You're Micah?" Her voice was low, rough around the edges, like she hadn't used it for anything soft in a long time. He cleared his throat. "Yeah, from Nightbite. Order for Cassidy?" Something flickered in her eyes at the use of her first name, a tiny crack in the CEO mask. "Come in," she said, already turning away. "The app wants a signature, and I can't deal with another screen in my face." He hesitated. Tech policy said don't go in, but the door was wide open and she'd walked back inside, leaving the city night and its rules out in the hall. He stepped over the threshold. The penthouse looked like it had been designed by a very talented, very exhausted architect. White walls, warm wood floors, huge windows framing the city in all its scattered light. Everything was curated, expensive, perfect, except the kitchen island. That was a battlefield. 3 empty coffee cups, a 4th half drunk. A laptop glowing accusingly with an inbox so full he could see the scroll bar from here. Papers everywhere, printouts with red marks, financial charts, a legal pad with pen grooves pressed clean through the page. "Counter's fine," she said, moving past him to sweep a stack of documents aside with the back of her hand. "Smells good. At least something does." Micah set the bag on the marble, trying not to stare. He'd delivered to nice apartments before, but there was something about the way this place looked like it had been bled into that made his chest ache a little. Long night? The words slipped out before he could catch them. She shot him a look, the reflexive kind CEOs use to put people back in their place. But it didn't quite land. Her eyes were too tired. "Long year," she said finally. "You need me to sign." He pulled his phone out, fingers brushing the cracked edge of the case. "Just here." She reached for it, then froze when his phone lit up. A small photo filled the screen. Micah with a little girl on his shoulders, both of them laughing, sunlight turning her curls into a halo. "That your kid?" she asked, hand stopping in midair. Micah's thumb hovered over the screen. He could have locked it, flipped it, brushed the question away. For reasons he didn't understand, he didn't. "Yeah," he said softly. "Lena, she's 7. Should be asleep. Hopefully." "Should be," Cassidy echoed, voice shifting, losing some of its steel. "You work this late and still get her to school in the morning?" He huffed a humorless laugh. "Something like that. Her grandma does the early shift. I'm the midnight crew." She studied him, really looking now. Not at the logo on his hoodie or the bag in his hand, but at his face, the faint lines of exhaustion, the way his shoulders held equal parts weight and refusal. "You from around here?" she asked, signing with a quick flick of fingers on glass. "South side. 20 minutes away on a good night. 40 if the universe is feeling petty." "Tonight? Took me 38 to get here," he said, then blinked. "I mean, I don't mind. Extra pay for distance. This building's good for that." "Harrington Tower." She said it like it tasted bad. "My father insisted on naming everything after us. I told him it was tacky. He said that was the point." Micah wasn't sure what to say to that, so he reached into the bag, pulling out containers, lining them up on the counter. "We've got ginger chicken soup, the house salad, and the lemon tart. Good choice." "I didn't choose." She sank onto one of the bar stools like her knees had given up on pretending. "I clicked the chef's pick because I couldn't look at options anymore." He paused, fingers resting on the last container. Sometimes no choice is the only choice that doesn't make your brain explode. She stared at him for a long beat, then let out a small, startled laugh. It wasn't pretty or polite. It was too raw for that. "You sound like my therapist," she said, "except he charges me $600 an hour and never brings food." "Maybe he should," Micah said, shrugging. "People tell the truth easier when they're holding a fork." Her gaze softened. "You always talk like that?" "Like what?" "Like you're quietly auditioning for the role of person who sees right through my bullshit." He felt heat creep up his neck. "Nah, just tired people recognize tired people, I guess." Something in her face cracked then, not all the way, just enough for him to see the woman under the headlines. The one whose mascara had smudged at the corners, who'd unbuttoned the top 2 buttons of her shirt, not because it looked sexy, but because it was hard to breathe. "Sorry," he said quickly. "I didn't mean." "No." She stopped him with a small wave of her hand. "Don't apologize. You're the first person tonight who isn't telling me I'm brilliant or a monster." The silence between them stretched. Not awkward, just unexpected. The city lights reflected off the marble, throwing constellations across the floor at their feet. Micah's phone buzzed again, a gentle chime. He glanced down. A text from his mom. "Lena's asleep. Drive safe. We love you." His throat tightened. Cassidy watched the way his expression shifted, the way his hand curled just slightly around the phone. "Single dad," she said quietly. It wasn't a question. He nodded. "Yeah? Her mom?" He said, the words clipped, but not bitter. "A while back. I'm sorry." "Me too," he admitted. "But then I look at her and I think, we're okay. We're going to be okay." When he said it, Something moved across Cassidy's face like a shadow reclaiming a room. For a second, he saw a little girl hiding under a conference table while adults argued over numbers she didn't understand. He saw a boardroom where no one said we're going to be okay unless there was a camera on. She slid off the stool. Micah? Yeah? This is going to sound weird. She pressed her palm against the cool marble as if steadying herself. But could you, when you're done with your shift, text me that again? That you think you and your daughter are going to be okay? He blinked. You want a text? I want to know there's at least one person in this building with my name on it who believes that about themselves, she said. Even if it's not me. He should say no. Company policy, boundaries, whatever. Instead, he heard himself say, sure, if you don't mind getting a text at like 3:30 in the morning. I'm a CEO, she said wryly. We don't sleep. We just close our eyes and pretend. He smiled, small but real. Then yeah, I'll text you. As he turned to leave, she spoke again, softer. Micah? He looked back. She stood in the pool of warm light from the pendant lamp, curves outlined against the dark, hands wrapped around the container of soup like it was a lifeline. Thank you, she said. And she meant more than the delivery. He didn't know it yet, but later when he looked back at this night, he'd remember that exact moment. The tired billionaire in fuzzy socks, the way her voice broke on the word, and understand that life didn't always announce its turning points. Sometimes they arrived in a dented sedan at 2 a.m., carrying food, hope, and a promise he hadn't known he was making. Micah sent the text, sitting in the dark outside his building, the engine off, the cold creeping through the floorboard and up his legs. Hey, Miss Harrington. This is Micah from Nightbite. Just clocked out. I'm exhausted. My back is screaming and my eyes burn. But I'm looking at a picture of my girl right now and yeah, we're going to be okay. He hovered over the send button for a heartbeat. It felt stupid, this small message tossed into the distance between their worlds. Then he pictured the way she'd wrapped both hands around the soup container like it was holding her together, the way her voice had cracked when she asked him to text. He hit send. The message left in a bright blue bubble, and the screen went still. No dots, no reply. Just the reflection of his own face in the glass. Tired, unshaven, still smelling faintly of fried food. He slid the phone into his pocket, grabbed Lena's drawing from the visor, and headed upstairs. On the 47th floor of Harrington Tower, the woman whose name was etched into the marble downstairs lay half-curled on her couch, still in her oversized white shirt and silk shorts, the untouched lemon tart sweating on the coffee table. Cassidy's phone buzzed against her thigh. She almost ignored it. At this hour, it was usually one of three things. Asia markets, an anxious lawyer, or her father, forwarding another article that either praised or questioned her, as if he were curating her entire public existence. She blinked grit out of her eyes and picked up the phone. The reading glasses she only wore at home slid down her nose as she focused on the text. Hey, Miss Harrington, this is Micah. By the time she got to, we're going to be okay, her vision blurred. Not because of the lack of sleep, but because something hot stung behind her eyes in that old, familiar way she'd learned to crush back before it ever reached her lashes. We. She didn't know when she'd last said that word about herself and anyone else without thinking of shareholder reports. Her thumb hovered. Her first instinct was to say nothing. CEOs did not text the delivery driver back. Her PR head would actually melt into a puddle if she saw this screen. But she wasn't the CEO in this moment. She was just a woman lying on a couch with a cold tart and an ache in her chest that success hadn't touched. Before she could talk herself out of it, she typed, I'm glad you and Lena are going to be okay. Eat something before you sleep, Micah. That's an order from someone who knows what happens when you push too hard. She stared at the message, winced at how bossy it sounded, then added a second line. Thank you for keeping your promise. Send. For the next week, the exchange sat between them like a small, warm light. Nothing more, nothing less. Cassidy didn't mean to order from Nightbite again 2 nights later. She'd sworn she would cook, even went so far as to take a pan out just to prove to herself that she could. Then the board call ran long. Then her father called immediately after, voice sharp as a knife. You're slipping, Cass. Journal says Havenline's losing its edge. You can be loved or you can win, but you can't be both. Which is it? She hung up with her stomach turned into a hard, cold knot, and the pan still empty on the stove. Her hand moved almost on its own. Phone, app, reorder. She didn't check the driver's name until the confirmation came through. Your order is on its way. Driver, Micah. Her heart did a ridiculous little stutter. By the time the doorbell chimed, she'd changed out of the shirt and shorts and into what she'd worn all day. A fitted navy sheath dress that hugged her thick hips and the soft curve of her belly, the one the stylist called power contoured. She'd kicked off her heels the second she came in. Now she padded barefoot across the smooth floor, suddenly hyper-aware of the weight of her body, the way her dress pulled when she breathed too shallow. She opened the door. Micah stood there, in his hoodie and cap, city wind tugging at the stray curls at his temples. He smiled, small and careful, like he wasn't sure yet if he was allowed. "Hey," he said, "you look different." Cassidy's brain, unhelpfully, converted that to "you look bigger, softer, too much." She straightened her spine and forced a smirk. "Clothes," she said, gesturing down. "I do occasionally wear something other than a giant shirt and fuzzy socks." His gaze flicked down and up, not lingering anywhere long enough to make her feel pinned, but long enough that she felt seen. "It suits you," he said simply. She swallowed. "Come in." He set the bag on the island again, the now familiar chaos of her work spread around like a crime scene. This time, the laptop screen was dark. Her phone lay face down on a sheaf of contracts, as if she'd deliberately tried to smother it. "How's Lena?" she asked, surprising herself. She wasn't sure she'd ever asked about a stranger's kid twice. Micah's whole face changed, lit from the inside. "She lost her other front tooth," he said. "She spent 15 minutes whistling through the gap and insisting I record it. She wants to show her class tomorrow." "Send it to me," Cassidy heard herself say. "If that's not weird. I mean, you don't know me. I don't want to be the creepy lady asking for toothless videos." He laughed, the sound low and warm. It slid between her ribs and settled somewhere that had been cold for a long time. "It's okay," he said. "I'll ask her. She's very strict about consent. I raised a tiny boundary queen." "A what?" Cassidy's lips twitched. "Boundary queen," he repeated. "She once told my mom, my hair, my rules, and I've never loved anything more." Cassidy's laugh startled both of them. It came out too loud, a little rough, like she'd forgotten how to modulate it. "God," she breathed. "I like her already." "You'd probably get along," Micah said. Then his expression shifted, something sobering in his eyes. "You okay? You look not okay." She stiffened. "You tell all your customers that?" "Only the ones who ask for texts at 3 in the morning," he said gently. "You don't have to answer. Just the soup's for more than decoration, you know?" Her shoulders sagged a fraction. She pressed her palms to the cool marble, grounding herself. "The board thinks I'm too soft," she said, staring at a faint coffee ring like it held all her shame. "My father thinks I care too much what the public thinks. Twitter thinks I'm a demon. Take your pick." "What do you think?" he asked. She blinked. No one ever started there. It was always, how will this affect investors? How will this play online? What does legal say? "I think." The words stuck. "I think I'm very, very tired of every decision being measured in how loudly someone else will scream." Micah nodded slowly. "Yeah, I get that." "That's not the same thing as wondering if you can afford your kids' school shoes," she said quickly, hearing the ugliness in her own voice. "I know that. I know I don't get to be the victim here." He didn't flinch. "Pain isn't a contest," he said. "If it was, Lena would be out here trying to win with her scraped knee every day." She almost smiled. He opened the containers, letting steam curl into the air. "I'm not saying it's the same," he added. "I'm just saying you're allowed to be tired even if your bed is nicer than mine." Her throat wrapped itself in barbed wire. No one talked to her like this. Not her father. Not the board. Not her exes, who had all turned out to love the idea of her more than the actual complicated, never-off-duty person. "Today," she said, each word an effort, "we laid off 37 people. It was either that, or take a deal that would have gutted what Havenline actually stands for and turned us into a glorified data farm. I chose to keep the company's soul, and I signed 37 severance letters with my own hand." Micah's jaw tightened. "I'm sorry." "So Twitter says I'm heartless for sending people home right before the holidays. My father says I'm weak for not taking the money. The board says they support me. Which we both know means they're counting how many more times they're willing to do it before they replace me. And her voice broke, I keep seeing their faces. She pulled back, straightened, smoothed invisible wrinkles over her curves. Anyway, that's not your problem. You're just here to deliver my feelings with extra bread. You're wrong, he said quietly. She froze. Excuse me? I mean, he corrected, rubbing the back of his neck. Yeah, I'm the delivery guy. But I'm also a person standing in front of you while you're clearly drowning. And I've been that person before. Different kind of drowning. Same look. What look is that? Her heart pounded against the snug fabric of her dress. Like you're holding your breath, and no one's told you it's okay to come up. For a moment, all she could hear was the hum of the refrigerator and the faint buzz of the city below. Her eyes burned. Micah, she said, and his name felt strange and intimate on her tongue. Say the thing, the text. He knew what she meant. His chest tightened. Okay, he said softly. Close your eyes. She did, lashes damp. You and Lena are going to be okay, he murmured. That's what I texted, but tonight you are going to be okay too. Maybe not perfect, maybe not clean, maybe people yell about it online, but you're going to find a way through because you already decided not to sell your soul. That counts for something. Her fingers curled against the marble. Tears slipped free, hot tracks cutting down her cheeks. No board member had made her cry. Her father's words had hardened into something she wore like armor. But this simple, stubborn faith from a man who spent his nights delivering food and his days raising a little girl, that went straight into the softest part of her. She opened her eyes. He was still there, hands visible, respectful distance, gaze steady and kind. You don't know that, she whispered. He smiled, a little crooked. I didn't know if I could do this alone when Lena's mom left, he said. Didn't know if I could work 2 jobs and still show up for her homework and her nightmares and her dentist appointments, but I kept saying it anyway. We're going to be okay, and somehow we are. Not because life got easy, because I decided to keep showing up. Something deep inside her shifted. Like a door she'd welded shut years ago had just discovered it still had hinges. I'm not ready for this, she blurted. For what? He asked. For my heart changing, she said, the confession so bare it scared her. For seeing things differently. For seeing you. The last bit slipped out before she could reel it back in. Micah's eyes widened slightly, then softened. You don't have to be ready, he said. Change doesn't wait for your calendar invite. A wet laugh burst out of her. He checked his watch, regret in the gesture. I should go. I've got 2 more orders before I can crash for 3 hours. She nodded, wiping her cheeks with the heel of her hand. Right, yes, go. Be responsible and heroic and all that. He headed for the door, then paused. Cassidy? Yes? If you don't want to eat alone tonight, he said carefully, I can sit over there for like 10 minutes while you get through half that soup. He nodded toward a stool on the far side of the island. I'll even pretend to be impressed when you talk about finance stuff I don't understand. Her instinct snapped up, polished and practiced. Don't blur lines, don't need anyone, don't appear weak. But the ache in her chest, the hollow ringing of the penthouse when the door closed behind people, the memory of 37 signatures. Stay, she heard herself say. 10 minutes. He smiled, the kind that warmed instead of burned. Yes, ma'am. As she took her first spoonful of soup with him quietly unwrapping bread on the other side of the marble, Cassidy realized something terrifying and wonderful. For the first time in years, she didn't feel alone in her own tower. The third time Cassidy cried in front of him, it wasn't over the board or her father or 37 severance letters. It was over his car. 2 weeks after that night, he'd stayed 10 minutes while she ate. Their strange rhythm had become something that almost felt normal. Not every night. Sometimes she cooked. Sometimes he finished his shift early and slept like the dead. But once or twice a week, the app would ping. Harrington Tower, penthouse. Order, chef's pick. Special instructions. Extra bread. No phone calls, please. He'd show up at her door, and for 10, sometimes 15 minutes, her marble island became neutral ground. She asked about Lena's spelling test and showed him screenshots of her calendar from hell. He refilled her water, reminded her to eat more than tart. They traded tiny, ridiculous pieces of their lives like kids swapping stickers. He sent the video of Lena whistling through her missing teeth. Cassidy watched it 3 times in a row at 3:12 a.m., laughing so hard she knocked over her coffee. She replied with a photo of her bare feet on the boardroom table, toes painted a bright, defiant red. Caption, "Told them if they want 30 more hours a week, they're paying for my pedicures." He'd stared at that photo way too long, thinking about the fact that those feet belonged to the woman he now worried about when she didn't order for more than 4 days. He didn't say that part out loud, not even to himself. Tonight, the order came in just after 1:30. Soup and salad, extra bread, lemon tart. Driver, Micah. He was 2 blocks from the restaurant when his sedan made a noise that yanked every bit of air out of his chest, a grinding, coughing scrape followed by a thick plume of steam from under the hood. "Come on, not now," he muttered, easing the car to the curb. The check engine light glowed like an accusation. He killed the ignition, sat there gripping the steering wheel hard enough that his knuckles ached. In the visor, Lena's sun drawing looked down at him with unfair optimism. "This is fine," he told the empty car. "We are fine. We will figure." The engine gave one last hiss. The smell of burned something seeped through the vents. He swore under his breath and climbed out, propping the hood open. Steam slapped him in the face. He could see all the pieces, belts, hoses, metal, and none of it made sense. His dad had tried to teach him once, but that had been another life, before night shifts and daycare schedules. His phone buzzed in his pocket. For a second he thought it was the app, cancelling his order, docking his pay. Unknown number. He answered anyway. "Hello? Micah?" Her voice, rough silk even over a cell connection. He straightened instinctively. "Cassidy? The app says my driver has been stationary for 10 minutes. A pause. "Are you okay?" He looked at the steaming mess in front of him and laughed once, sharp and hollow. "Define okay. Alive, not bleeding, not being robbed," she said. "Start there." "I'm alive," he said, "not bleeding, not being robbed. My pride, however, is on fire, along with my engine." Her inhale was sharp. "Your car broke down? Where are you?" "Couple blocks from the restaurant," he said. "I can get them to reassign your order. I'm sorry, I don't care about the food," she snapped. Then softer. "I mean, I do, but I care more that you're stuck on the side of the road in the middle of the night." He stared at the traffic sliding past in washes of white and red. "I'll figure it out. Call a tow. It's not your problem." "You are delivering my food," she said. "That makes it slightly my problem." "Cassidy." "Micah, if you say I'm fine right now, I swear I will find you myself and throw your phone into traffic." A startled laugh escaped him. He rubbed a hand over his face. "I can't afford a tow tonight," he admitted, the words tasting like rust. "If they take the car, I'm done. No car, no deliveries, no extra hours, no winter jacket for Lena, no dentist bill next month. So I'm going to sit here a minute, let it cool, pretend I know what I'm doing, and then probably cry where no one can see me. That's the plan." Silence on the other end. Then, "Text me your location." "Cassidy, no. I'm not dragging you into... I'm already in it," she said. "I hit send on that order. Text me." Something inside him warred. Pride, fear, the bone-deep habit of not asking rich people for help because it always came with strings. But there was something else now, too. A thread between them that had been woven over soups and texts and 10-minute talks. Thin. Real. He sent his location. 15 minutes later, a sleek black SUV pulled up behind his dying sedan. The Harrington Tower logo was discreet on the door, but he saw it, and his stomach knotted. The back door opened. Cassidy swung her legs out first, the fitted black dress she'd worn in some interview tonight, hugging her curves all the way down. Her hair was down, thick waves spilling over her shoulders. She'd thrown a long camel coat over everything and shoved her feet into white sneakers, laces half-tied. Her eyes, rimmed with exhaustion, flashed as she took him in. "You drove yourself," he blurted. "Do you see a chauffeur?" She slammed the door. The SUV rolled away at a slow crawl, clearly following some instruction she'd barked he hadn't heard. "Get in. You're freezing." "I can't leave the car," he said. "If they tow it." "We'll leave a note," she said, already digging in her bag for a pen. "On Harrington letterhead. Trust me, no one in this city wants the hassle of towing my problem." He swallowed. "I can't ask you." "You didn't," she said. "I invited myself." She scribbled something on a notepad, slapped it under his windshield wiper, and then stepped close enough that he could see the smudge of last night's mascara she hadn't quite scrubbed off. "You're shaking," she murmured. "It's cold," he said, though they both knew that wasn't all of it. She reached out like she was going to touch his arm, then stopped, fingers hovering. "Can I?" He nodded, throat tight. Her hand landed on his forearm, warm, steady. "I'm getting you and that engine out of the red, Micah Jordan. You helped me breathe when the air was knives. Let me return the favour." He let her guide him into the SUV. Inside, the air smelled faintly of leather and her perfume, something soft and expensive with a hint of citrus. He stared at the dashboard screen, displaying his sad little sedan on the map, a blinking dot they were slowly pulling away from. "This is messing with my head," he admitted. "What is?" she asked. "Being here," he said. "With you, not as the guy with the insulated bag, but as... I don't even know." "As Micah," she said. "That's just it," he said, a rough laugh catching in his chest. "Micah is the guy who hustles, grinds, delivers. Micah is the guy who does not get into billionaire SUVs in the middle of the night unless he's dropping off soup." Her lips twitched. "So maybe Micah is also the guy whose heart gets to change his mind at least once." His pulse tripped. "My heart? You think I haven't noticed?" she said quietly. "You walk into my apartment like it's a mission, like you're immune. But the way your eyes light up when you talk about Lena, the way your whole body relaxes the second you make me laugh, that's a heart doing something, Micah." He stared at his hands. Calloused, cracked knuckles, faint scars. Hands that had lifted boxes, pushed broken carts, cradled an infant who wouldn't stop crying. "I don't have time for my heart to do anything," he said. "Feelings didn't pay rent when my ex walked out. Love didn't show up when the daycare called and said they couldn't keep Lena late." "I know," she said. "I built an entire empire so no one could hurt me like my father did. I don't have time either. I schedule my breakdowns between investor calls." He huffed. "That sounds about right." "But then some delivery guy shows up at 2 a.m, she went on softly, "and tells me I'm allowed to be tired, and my company still has a soul and we are going to be okay. And suddenly I'm ordering soup just to see him walk through my door." The SUV hummed through the city. Streetlights slid over her face, turning her eyes from blue to grey to something almost silver. "You're not ready for this," he said, echoing her words from that second night. "For what it would mean, your father, the press, a black single dad who's barely keeping his car alive." "My father has been wrong about more important things," she cut in. "And the press already thinks I'm a monster. Let them try to figure out how to spin, woman with too much money chooses man who knows how to show up." He let out a breath that felt like it had been stuck in his ribs for years. "I'm scared," he admitted, "of hoping, of introducing somebody to Lena and then watching her heart crack if it goes bad, of standing next to you and feeling like I don't belong in the frame." She turned in her seat, facing him fully. The city blurred outside. Inside, everything felt very, very sharp. "Micah," she said, voice low, "your daughter deserves to see you loved the way you love her. Not halfway, not in secret between shifts. Fully, out loud." His eyes burned. He blinked hard, jaw working. "What if I don't know how to do that anymore?" "Then we learn," she said simply. "Badly at first, quietly, on the ground, not on some stage. We start with soup and 10 minutes and build from there." He laughed, wet and shaky. "You make it sound like a product launch." Her smile tilted. "I am very good at launches." He looked at her then, really looked. At the strong line of her jaw, the vulnerability she didn't hide from him anymore, the way her dress hugged a body that had carried the weight of thousands of people's livelihoods and still looked soft enough to rest against. His heart, traitorous thing, stretched toward her. "Okay," he said, the word trembling between them. "Okay, we can try, slowly." Her exhale came out on a relieved laugh, as if she'd been bracing for no. "Slowly is good," she said. "For the record, I am absolutely not ready for your heart changing my life, but I think it already has." The SUV stopped in front of his apartment building. He hadn't even noticed they'd turned. "How? I told my driver your address," she said, unbothered. "You talk about your neighborhood too much for me not to figure it out." He shook his head, smiling. "That's creepy." "That's due diligence," she corrected. They sat there a moment, the city's hum seeping through the glass. "Can I meet her?" she asked. "Not tonight. Sometime, on neutral ground. A park. A diner. Somewhere she can decide if she even likes the weird soup lady from your phone." His chest squeezed. The idea of Cassidy, this thick, curvy, terrifyingly brilliant woman, standing in the same space as his daughter, made something fierce and hopeful rise in him. "Yeah," he said. "Yeah, we can do that." He opened the door, then paused. "Cassidy? Yes?" He leaned back in just enough that they shared the same pocket of air. "Thank you for coming for me." Her eyes softened. "Get inside," she murmured. "Text me that you're home, then sleep. That's an order." He gave her a mock salute. "Yes, ma'am." When his message came through 5 minutes later. Home. Exhausted. Scared. Weirdly hopeful. "We're going to be okay." Cassidy pressed the phone to her chest and let herself cry without wiping the tears away. 2 Saturdays later, under a grey sky in the little park 3 blocks from his apartment, Micah watched Lena stick her tongue out to catch imaginary raindrops. Cassidy stood beside him in jeans and a soft cream sweater that hugged every curve without apology. Her hair was in a low ponytail. Her makeup was almost non-existent. She looked human, beautiful, a little terrified. Lena ran up, curly ponytail bouncing. She examined Cassidy with open, curious eyes. "You're the lady who sends Daddy those long messages," she said. Cassidy's mouth twitched. Guilty. "You made him smile on sad days," Lena announced. "I heard him." Micah's throat closed. "I like your sweater," Lena added. "It looks like marshmallows." Cassidy laughed, the sound bright in the cold air. "Best compliment I've gotten all quarter." Lena considered her for another long second, then slipped her small hand into Cassidy's. "Okay," she said. "You can sit with us on the swings." Later, with Lena soaring and shrieking with laughter, pushing herself higher, Micah and Cassidy sat side by side on the next swing, their shoulders brushing. "You know this is insane," he said softly. 2 months ago you were a stranger behind a penthouse door." 2 months ago I thought love was a distraction," she said. "Now I'm on a squeaky swing in the cold with a sun-obsessed 7-year-old and a man who made me believe my own company still has a soul." He watched Lena, cheeks flushed, eyes bright, hair flying. "My heart is changing," he said quietly. "I didn't ask it to, but it is." She reached over, fingers searching for his. "Mine too." Their hands laced together, warm and sure. For the first time in a very long time, when Micah thought the words were going to be okay, he wasn't just talking about himself and Lena. He was talking about the woman beside him, the girl on the swing, and the strange, fragile, fierce thing growing between all 3 of them. And this time he believed it with his whole, changing heart.